Hey everybody, it is Mama to Wife of One, and thank you guys so much for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi and welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I am a mommy, I'm a wife, I'm a content creator, an editor, a writer, an author, and I like to talk about Married at First Sight. I like to talk about other shows and documentaries that I've watched, and I also like to share stuff that I'm learning as I navigate marriage and as I navigate being a mommy. Speaking of which, before I get into Married at First Sight, which I know you guys clicked here for, but before I do that, I wouldn't be the mommy that I am if I didn't first give a shout out to my firstborn, my baby boy, whose birthday is today, March 23rd. He is 14 years old. He's my oldest. He's my only son. And I am just, I love that little boy so much. And so I just wanted to give him a happy birthday shout out just in case he ever sees this video, as long as it's on the interwebs. Who knows? It'll be on there for years to come. So maybe he'll see one day and be like, oh, look, my mommy gave me a shout out. So I was going to give a shout out to my baby boy real quick. Now, you guys are here to talk about Married at First Sight. We are on season, feels like 28, but I feel like we're on season 16, right? Episode 12 called Getting to the Crust. I will say this episode was very boring. And I had high hopes for it because Dr. Pepper was on this episode. And for those of you who are new to the show or even new to my channel, don't really know about Married at First Sight, Dr. Pepper is one of the experts who at the beginning of the series meets with another expert, Pastor Cal, and they're the ones who put these couples together. But they put the couples together based off of interviews, home visits, all that stuff. And Dr. Pepper and Pastor Cal are different in their approach, but they're very direct and they're very upfront, very honest with the couples. And normally they kind of gather the couples together and really get them together when we see that they're not doing so well, or if we see that they're repeating patterns that they said that they don't really do anymore. So I expect a little bit more, but also I think because this season, which is a good thing, there's nobody who is inherently messy. Now, I know we have mixed feelings, or a lot of people I've talked to have mixed feelings about Eris, but he's not like 100% an a-hole like some other characters we've seen on this show before. So I think that's why there wasn't really a lot, like she didn't have to necessarily yank anybody up, like, how did you do this to her? And blah, blah, blah. There was none of that because we didn't really have that this season, which is not a bad thing because I personally don't tune into the show for that kind of drama. So I think maybe that's why there wasn't really a lot there. But she made it clear that she was visiting the couples because she wanted to help them with their vulnerability, asking the questions to get them to talk to each other and to make sure they're, letting their guards down if their guards are still up. And we do have quite a few people who have their guards up. So it made sense that she was there. But yeah, I thought that episode was pretty boring myself. I think the only couples who had any real progress were Kirsten and Shaq, Gina and Clint. I think that's pretty much it. They're the only ones who really like anything new happened, more of like, oh, okay, that's different. But it was pretty boring. So we'll start with Kirsten and Shaquille. So their issue is that Kirsten has her walls up. She's not really letting Shaquille in. There's no real intimacy, like they touch each other. And that's pretty much it. We've seen him kiss her on the forehead. We've seen them hug. We've seen them hold hands. We have never seen them kiss on the lips until this episode. We finally saw it. So apparently they are actually doing this just off camera, but it's not consistent. And so that was her complaint to Dr. Pepper. Also, before she got into her issues, I love that when they met with Dr. Pepper, she brought Dr. Pepper some cookies. I was like, she is such a Southern belle. That seems like a typical thing Kirsten would do. It was sweet, but it was like, oh, you're so sweet, whatever. So one thing Dr. Pepper told them, these are her Dr. Pepper's keys to like a good relationship. She said, make no assumptions and do unto others as they would have done unto themselves. I was like, I like that. I like that. And one thing I love whenever the experts come on is that they're always dropping some knowledge, not just for the couples who are on the show, obviously, but for us as the audience. We can be like, ooh, that's good. That's deep. I like that. I'm going to take that. So I appreciated some of the stuff that she dropped tonight, or last night rather. So one thing that kind of, I don't want to say bothers me, but it's someone in one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, shout out to you guys on Facebook, it's Black girls who love Married at First Sight. They were commenting, and it was an excellent comment, and it made a lot of sense. They were a little, not upset, but I guess confused about the fact that some of the questions that Dr. Pepper asked prompted some of the people to really dig deep and figure out, oh yeah, based off of this childhood experience and based off of this relationship, I realized that I don't trust, or I realized that I hold on to this. And the question she posed was, I thought that all of these individuals, went through a psych evaluation prior to getting on the show. So if they did that, either these things didn't come up, or these things did come up and you still decided, okay, they still make for good television, we should still put them on the show. And I do want to be clear that nobody is perfect. No one comes into a relationship with all of their issues solved. But because this is an experiment where you're not just dating, you're getting married to a complete stranger. And the whole point is that people are signing up for the show because they claim they want to be married for the rest of their lives. There are certain issues that should be resolved, or at least should be on the way to getting resolved before they're actually set up to be married. Some of the individuals seem like they were just getting this fresh revelation that night by talking to Dr. Pepper. And it's like, well, these are things you probably should have figured out before now. And the show should have figured this out before now. So like Kirsten opened up about her parent separation, and she said that their separation started her being closed off and not wanting to really open up to people and feeling like she had to handle her own issues, handle her own stuff. So I'm not going to let people in because then they'll see that I'm not whole. And so I got to take care of my own stuff, kind of keep them at bay, but still be there for everybody else. And I think that was Jasmine's issue as well. There's a couple people's issues, actually. And Dr. Pepper was asking them questions about, your childhood. Do you feel shame about anything? And I thought it was very interesting that she focused on the shame factor. I'm not exactly sure why, but I did think that was interesting. And Shaquille talked about how his mom worked a lot and he found his biological dad when he was 17. He kind of felt shame behind the fact that he judged his mom a little bit for working as much as she did. And then he felt shame because he didn't know his biological father until he was 17. And unfortunately, that's not a new story nowadays. It happens far too often. So, but I can still understand as a young man, the shame of that, especially depending on the people you're around, that wow, everybody else has their mom and their dad. And here I am, at this event by myself because my mom is still working and my dad's not in my life. So again, I feel like these things should have come up. I don't know if they've ever had these conversations before, but I felt like they hadn't. I felt like this was the first time Shaquille really heard these things from Kirsten, and he needed to hear that. But it does suck that you only get to hear it because Dr. Pepper is there asking these questions. So once Dr. Pepper leaves, does this mean that she's going to feel open and safe enough to really share these things with you now, like on a regular basis? And obviously time will tell. We don't necessarily know. She also, surprised to me, Kirsten has finally expressed that she finally wants kisses from Shaquille. It's like, oh, okay. And I said this last week. It is hard to expect somebody to immediately flip the switch when you created this specific environment from the beginning. But Dr. Pepper did say, because she must have heard me talk about this in my last video, because I'm sure she watches me. Hey, Dr. P, how are you doing? I think that, she basically said, you can't focus on how things were. You have to adjust to the now. And it's like, okay, that is fair. And, she basically telling Shaquille, like, Kirsten is saying she wants this from you. She wants more affection. She wants more intimacy. She's ready to take it to those next levels. So you need to be consistent with giving her that and not dwell on the fact that in the beginning she wouldn't kiss you. Now she wants your kisses. So now you need to adjust to her new wants. And that is fair. I get it. I think it's an adjustment for everybody. The whole thing is an adjustment for everybody. But he was like, okay, I got you. This is what you want. Okay, cool. And it was almost like she finally let him off the leash because she said, I need you to, because one of the questions, after they met with Dr. Pepper, all the couples got a fishbowl full of questions to kind of lead to more intimate revelations. And one of the questions was, what would make you feel safe and secure in this marriage? And she said, I would feel safe and secure if you took charge, if you took the lead as a man in our relationship. That would make me feel safe and secure. And it's like his eyes lit up, light bulb went off, and said like, oh, word? That's all? Okay, well, cool, bet. That's what you asked for. You sure you want this, right? Because once you say that, yes, I'm down. I'm ready to do whatever. And I could clearly see his posture change. And he was like, okay, I'm ready to go because I can be that alpha male. I've been holding back because I've been trying to respect you. But if you want me to be alpha, I can do that. And I'm very curious and excited to kind of see what that looks like from his perspective and to see if that matches with what she envisioned. Because just because she's saying, I want you to take charge, does that mean just in the bedroom? Does that mean when it comes to finances? Does that, what exactly does that mean? So it's going to be very interesting to see their different interpretations of take charge. So they did have a cute little moment. Well, first they had a conversation. She is a real estate agent and she asked him, because he's creative, to redesign her logo. And just in watching him create stuff, you could see that she was subtly getting turned on by him being in his zone, him being in his creative zone, drawing, creating. And she was just looking like, oh, well, I like that. Okay. And you could just see like she was feeling in that moment, feeling so turned on by her husband, who was A, taking charge, but B, exhibiting the side of himself that she doesn't get to see that often. And it just looked like, oh, okay. So Kirsten is definitely feeling, so we know that she's attracted to him. We know that she is like into him. And like, this is my first episode really seeing her like want to almost take his clothes off. Like she was giving that kind of energy. And I've never seen that from her before. So I was like, okay, I'm liking this side of her. And then she comes home from work and he has this whole thing set up in the living room. He set up this body painting party. So she changes into this bikini with a little sarong. She stands on top of a table. He has all of these body paints and he's just painting every inch of her skin that is showing. So her stomach, her chest, her arms, her legs. And she's like just making comments like, ooh, I like that. Ooh, ombre. Okay, ooh, I feel like a work of art. Oh, okay, you better work that paintbrush. Oh, but that is real. And she was saying a bunch of trash. Not a bunch of trash, but I've never heard her talk like that to him. So seemed a little, I guess, awkward for me. But I'm going to assume that she said things like that to him before because he didn't flinch. He was just kind of kept going with the flow. And then, you know, he had some whipped cream and he was like, okay, do you trust me? You trust me, right? His demeanor was so different. His demeanor was very much like, I am the predator, you're the prey. I got you, girl. Let me get this whipped cream real quick. I'm gonna squirt it in your mouth. Get my little strawberry, and I'm gonna devour you. Like, it was a very sensual, very sexual, very overtly sexual, which we have never seen from this couple the entirety of this season so far. So it was awkward because it's like, oh, we haven't really been exposed to that, but okay. But it was nice. It was nice that, okay, you guys have finally gotten to that next level in your relationship. So if nothing else, I'm happy you guys have gotten to another level. That's great. And from next week's preview, we see that they have consummated. I don't know if they consummated that night, but they consummated at some point between last night's episode or next week's episode. But the energy was definitely there. The vibe was set for that. And I was just happy that, okay, finally something new is happening with them. So they can get that part together. Hopefully they can continue to get the part where she, you know, shares more of herself and he makes her a priority and spends more time with her. So fingers crossed for them, I guess. But yeah, that was probably the most exciting thing. Like, oh, look at you guys. Okay. And that wasn't even that exciting. It was just like, oh, that's so cool for them. Last night was boring, you guys. It really was, at least for me. And then we had Nicole and Chris. I have a couple things. Nothing bad, but question too. So the episode with them starts with her and Chris meeting her dad for goat yoga. I do not understand the appeal of goat yoga. I have seen it before on different podcasts and TV shows, internet shows, whatever. First of all the ones that I've seen of goat yoga, the goats were way smaller than the ones that were jumping up on Nicole, Chris, and her father. They were huge freaking goats jumping on them. I thought that was a little jarring myself, but what do I know? I'm also not an animal person. I love dogs. Outside of dogs, I'm kind of afraid of most other animals. So that's just not going to be my bag. But I still don't really get the appeal of it. I don't really understand. The one thing I will do, I've seen puppy yoga on TikTok. I would do that in a heartbeat. That looks like the cutest thing. The puppies just kind of snuggle into your little nooks and crannies, like the crook of your arm or the crook of your knee or something. They just fall asleep. That's the cutest thing. I can do that all day. But I'm not about to have no stinking ghosts jumping on my back. I just don't get the appeal. I don't get it. I'm fine without that in my life, but neither here nor there. But one of the questions I had was, they did this with her dad because she wanted to give her dad the opportunity to spend more time with Chris. How important is it to you that your parents like your spouse or like the person that you're with, or actually spends time with them one-on-one? Like, is that important to you? I think it probably depends on your individual relationship with your parents. Obviously, Nicole's very close to her dad. She's a daddy's girl, so it is important to her. So I guess I kind of get it. But I'm just curious, just in general, and you guys can comment below. How important is it to you that your parents like or respect or hang out with your significant other? Just put that down below. They have a conversation after the yoga, and it looks like Nicole's dad is finally allowing Chris to call him dad. He was like, I have respect for you because you care about my daughter and she cares about you. And I can clearly see that you really have her best interest at heart. And obviously time will tell and everything, but you definitely have earned the right to call me dad. And I was like, okay. I like Nicole's dad a lot. I think he's very honest. He's protective over his daughter, but he's very honest and upfront. Because when Chris asked him, like, oh, how was Nicole when she was younger? He's like, oh, she was terrible. She was a brat. She would do this. She would do that. He was like, but you know what? She grew up. He was like, obviously, the 21-year-old version of her is going to be very different from the 32-year-old version of her. So she grew out of that. She grew up like we all do. We all, have our phases, but she's good now. And so, yeah, I really like her dad. And when they talked to Dr. Pepper, she realized that she's more impacted by her past relationships than she thought. And she's basically in this mode of feeling like what she has with Chris is too good to be true. So she's not questioning whether or not he's genuine and questioning whether or not this is real, but she's questioning whether or not she deserves to be as happy as she is, which is a terrible, terrible place to be in. And it does speak to how damaging her past relationships were, that she had these guys that made her feel less than and made her feel like she should feel privileged to be with them. So when you get used to being with guys like that, you assume that that's the way you're supposed to be treated all the time. So when you're treated differently in a way that you've always dreamt of but never had before, I understand. It makes perfect sense. You would start to question, like, well, maybe I don't deserve this, and maybe this is a trick, and maybe this will go away sometime soon, or maybe I'm going to do something to mess this up because obviously I don't deserve this. Of course I'm going to mess it up. And again, though, some of this feeling and some of, that should have come out in the psych evaluation prior to the show. But I digress. I mean, she doesn't seem like she's trying to sabotage the relationship. She's being very honest with Chris about what she's feeling and everything. He seems to be taking it in his stride, but also think that it's a terrible place for him to be in because there's literally nothing he can do about that. That's literally just all he can do really is be consistent. And so far he has been. As long as he's consistent, continues to be honest, continues to help her in any way he can, like that's all he can do. But in terms of her mindset, she alone is the only one who can change that. So that's a terrible position I think that she's in, and a frustrating position that he's in, that he can't really do anything about how she feels. He can just listen to her and be like, okay, well, I believe you do. And it's interesting because when they were answering some of the questions from the fishbowl, he asked a question. First of all, I love the fact that when they were answering their questions, they did it while they were working out. I really just like that. I think that makes it a little less awkward and kind of takes the spotlight off you a little bit if you guys are doing this activity together, as opposed to just sitting across from each other, holding hands, asking these really tough questions. But one thing I thought was interesting is that when it was a question about some question he answered, and he was talking about how women in the past have made him feel like he's not really worthy of love. So basically he kind of suffered from the same thing that she's suffering from, except he doesn't seem to be questioning what he has with her. He seems to be enjoying it. Like, I know that I'm worthy, but those women trying to make me feel that way and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I want to let you know that you are definitely worthy of love. You are a great man. And she said in her little private talking head that she wants to make it her mission to make sure he knows he's worthy of love. And I don't know if she sees the irony in that. I hope that she does. But again, like that's a personal feeling. Like all you can do as that spouse, as that partner, is to be consistent in your actions. Because once you're inconsistent with how you're showing up for that person, that's going to give them the proof that they need that they may not be worthy of love or worthy of happiness. So hopefully they both continue to work with each other, and hopefully after the show is over, whether they stay together or not, that they'll seek individual therapy to really get to some more of the crux of what's been happening in their lives. So that's pretty much all I have with them. I'm going to do Jasmine and Eris last because I just am. So Gina and Clint, they met with Dr. Pepper. They have made a lot of progress since the honeymoon, but they don't really have deep, meaningful conversations. They're all about having fun. And having fun in a marriage is a good thing. But Dr. Pepper said, which I love, she's like, just having fun isn't going to make this a marriage. Amen, Dr. Pepper. She basically, she had the fishbowl question for them too. And what happened with them, it was a case of very different communication styles. Gina is not afraid to open up but she is not going to initiate the vulnerability. She's not going to initiate the deep conversations. If you ask her the questions and you've provided a space where she feels safe enough to share with you, she will share with you. Whereas Clint is very vocal and he's very upfront and all about it. So he's the one that will just kind of vomit information without you asking. And I think that's what he's expecting from her. But you do have to kind of respect that, okay, we have different communication styles. So if you want to get to know me, you have to ask me questions. That's the only way I operate. I'm not comfortable enough to just say, hey, let me tell you about my childhood. Hey, let me tell you about my mom. Man, let me tell you about this time this boy did this to me. Not everybody is set up that way. And so I think, and I kind of put that as a note, when you're with somebody, it's all about not necessarily, I mean, you do have to make some sacrifices, but sometimes it's just about adjusting. It's about adjusting your love language. It's about adjusting your communication style. It's about adjusting a lot of things. Sometimes just even adjusting the way you kiss a person, adjusting the way you hug a person. The way you hugged and kissed the last boy or girl may not be how this current person likes to be hugged or kissed. So life is all about adjusting, especially when you're in a relationship. And it doesn't have to be bad, especially if the other person is willing to adjust as well. So that was kind of their thing. And, Clint said he wants to build trust, and she, wants to open up to him because he keeps saying he wants to know more about her and blah, 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 blah. So they went through some of the fishbowl questions, and they were having, one thing I do like about Gina and Clint is that, and Nicole and Chris are like this too, they are very open, very honest. They don't shy away from the hard questions. So every question in that bowl, they answered every single question, and they went in detail, and they really opened up. And again, that can only be possible if the environment has already been set up where I am comfortable enough to share this with you. So even though Dr. Pepper said, having fun isn't going to make a marriage, and I do agree with that, the fact that they have had fun and are getting to know each other better and are liking each other a little bit more, opened the door up for them to have this kind of conversation. So I was appreciative that they were able to do that. She talked about having feelings of abandonment and rejection because her dad didn't make the effort. She talked about because she was raised by a single mom and because her dad wasn't around, it's not as easy for her to open up to men because the one man in her life that was supposed to be there wasn't. So now she just assumes other men don't want to be around or questions them if they choose to stay around and still doesn't feel comfortable talking to them. And she's used to talking to her mom, her girlfriends, and her salon girls. That's what she knows, and that's what she kind of gravitates towards. And that's a really eye-opening thing because Clint obviously didn't know any of that stuff. And she also talked about how she's a workaholic, and he knew that, but he didn't know that she does that because she doesn't feel like she's ever good enough in that area. So that's why she works as hard as she does. And I love that, again, Gina was honest and open with the whole thing. And I feel like it brought them closer together. I don't know if it's enough to get them to the finish line and actually stay married after all this. Because, yes, you guys have had fun. You guys have been exposed to each other's worlds. You guys are having greater conversation. And, that kind of intimacy is there, which is great. There is still no physical intimacy. There's no kissing at all. I think there's probably hugging, but that's it. And all that other stuff is really great, and you need to have that as your foundation. But at some point, that needs to lead to the physical stuff. And I haven't seen any indication that it's going to go in that direction. So I am a little worried. And I've said before, I think I said this last week, if nothing else, they're going to end up as really good friends because the foundation is there for them to be awesome friends. But I don't know if there's enough there so far for the marriage to continue. It definitely can't continue the way it is with no intimacy whatsoever. So we'll see what takes place with them. Now we're going to go to Jasmine and Eris. So I will say this. I can applaud Eris for trying. I applaud Eris for opening up and finally being vulnerable. I applaud Eris for being vulnerable even when Dr. Pepper was not in the room. I can give him that props. But I also understand from Jasmine's perspective, if you've been wanting something for weeks from this man who does not want you and has made it clear that he doesn't really want you in that way, it is hard to just flip on a switch and now tell him all this stuff that you've wanted to tell him and now be vulnerable with him and have these deep conversations. It is hard because she has been saying all this time, I want the emotional intimacy to grow. I want him to ask me questions. I want to, whatever. But it is hard to flip that switch on when he's now giving you what you want, but you've waited weeks for it. And it's like, oh, all Dr. Pepper had to do was say a couple words and now you're ready to talk to me. And I did have a question though. She was struggling with the fishbowl questions. She was struggling when Dr. Pepper was there. This was my first time seeing her really say everything she needed to say. She really let off all the stuff that's been on her chest, and I really appreciated that, and I love that. But the question I had was, this is an opinion question, so make sure you leave in the comments. When they were going through the fishbowl questions, and she was not really answering them, giving him one-word answers or like volleying the question back to him, and not really like, I don't know, I can't think of anything. I really can't think of a thing. Do you think that that was because she was struggling with this question specifically? Or do you think that she doesn't feel safe with him enough to tell him these things? Or do you think that she's just checked out? Because based off of her energy, it seemed like she's just checked out of the marriage. But it's like, if that's the case, then why do the questions in the first place? Like, let him know, you know what, I'm not really in the headspace to answer these questions. Maybe we should wait until tomorrow. Because right now, after dumping all that on Dr. Pepper, like my emotions are really, really high. And I think I need some time. Let's wait until tomorrow. So I personally think she's checked out. But what do you guys think? She's checked out? Do you think she just didn't feel safe enough to answer the questions? Or do you think the questions made her uncomfortable? Like, sound off below. So one thing Dr. Pepper said, sorry, an email came in from work. But one thing I said too is that if nothing else, no matter what we say about Aries is very funny. Every episode he says something that has me cracking up a little bit, or at least cracking a smile. So I think Aries is very humorous, and I do like hearing him talk about things. He's like naturally funny. I will definitely say that. So one thing she said to Dr. Pepper, again, she let it all out. She said she had low self-esteem. She said she loves herself now, but it sucks when you love yourself and you love the person that you've become, but the man that you're married to, this marriage you've wanted for, you know, your whole life or your whole adult life or whatever, and this man doesn't want you. She's like, that doesn't feel good, basically. And because of that, she doesn't feel like, you know, he doesn't really want to know more about her, because I guess in her mind, he's kind of checked out as well. So I don't feel comfortable telling him stuff that's going on with me, because I feel like he doesn't want to know. And is it even worth me bringing it up? Is it worth me fighting for this marriage? And it seemed like a weight has kind of been lifted off. She was able to let all of that out. But I wish she would kind of let that all out on Aries, not to make Aries feel bad necessarily, but she's definitely holding on to stuff. And I don't know if she doesn't say this stuff to Aries because she's like, what's the point? Like, it's not going to change his mind. Like, maybe that's what she was kind of trying to insinuate. But if this is your husband and this is something you say you wanted for a long time, you have to be honest. Like, you just do. You have to be honest. You have to let it out, whether it leads to anything or not, whether it, you know, changes anything or not. You still need to do that because he doesn't know. He knows that you want more. He knows that you're attracted to him, but he may not know the actual ins and outs of what it is you seek. And so you need to be upfront and honest. Like, this is how this is making me feel. I am feeling like this. I am feeling rejected. I worked so hard to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to let you take that joy away from me or whatever, because he didn't know any of that stuff. And then one thing Dr. Pepper said, talking to Jasmine, did you ever think that maybe this has nothing to do with you? And I love that, because I'm pretty sure for Aries, that didn't really dawn on him either. And Dr. Pepper, you know, talked to him about it, and he said he had a lot of deaths in his family, and that might lead to him not wanting to be close to people because he's afraid to be close to someone, afraid that they're going to leave, or afraid that, you know, that they'll just leave, whether they die or leave. Like, that's kind of a fear of his. And so it's like, okay, we're getting somewhere. But again, I feel like this should have taken place before he signed up for the show. Not that he knew that was a specific issue, but the fact that you are 39 and you were able to put your guard up for, what was it, like 10 plus years? I think it was like 10 years after someone didn't even break your heart, but someone, I guess, you kind of opened up to, they didn't reciprocate. And for 10 years, you had the guard up. Like, that should have been therapy, period, within that 10-year span, that you were able to do that for so long. But again, neither here nor there. And one thing Jasmine did say is that she admitted to not knowing how to communicate very well because she never saw her parents arguing. Her parents are still married, but she said that whenever they argued, I never saw them argue. So I don't know how they resolve their conflicts. So I don't really know how to be confrontational in a marriage or just confront someone when I feel like they've done me wrong. I don't know how to do that. That is very valid. A lot of people do not do that. I feel like a lot of parents, either it's opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Either your parents never argued in front of you and they did everything behind closed doors, or they did the extreme and they like had the, big argument in front of their kids where they're yelling, they're cursing, they're throwing things, they're maybe fighting or whatever. I know from my parents, I didn't really see them fighting a lot. Like their fighting style was not them yelling at each other. My father, and unfortunately I got this from my daddy, he is the king of giving you the silent treatment. And I became the queen of it in my marriage. But at some point I was like, you know what? No, because my husband would be quick to give me the silent treatment right back. And I realized how that felt when it was done to me. And I was like, I don't like this. This isn't healthy. I don't want to do this anymore. So I had to kind of retrain my brain because I'd been doing it for years. But it was like, no, this isn't healthy. And you're grown. And we're not going to do this anymore. Because just like I saw that growing up from my parents, I'm sure my babies are not dumb. I'm sure they saw that as well. And it was very important to me to model better behavior for them than was modeled for me. And not saying I still have it right, but that takes some time. And a lot of times it takes some reprogramming because obviously you're going to do what you saw. You're going to do what was shown to you. So for Jasmine, it wasn't shown to her, so she doesn't know how to do that. That is fair. But now she's grown. Jasmine's 31 years old. So now's the time to figure out, okay, if I have an issue with something Eris said or something that Eris did, how do I communicate that to him? What do I need to say? How will he respond to what I'm saying? How does he want me to bring this to his attention? Those are conversations that you have. She's not having it with him. They had their bowl full of questions. First of all, before the bowl full of questions, Dr. Pepper told her to stand up for herself and speak up for herself, just like she's been telling the girls that she coaches when she coaches cheerleading. And she told Eris, you can't be a runner anymore. You have to meet Jasmine where she is. Like, meet her. Stop running away from her, making excuses because I'm not attractive, whatever. It's deeper than that. So you need to actually make an effort. So they have the bowl of questions. Eris is asking the questions. And so what's supposed to happen is he asks a question. She answers it first, and then he answers it. She was not answering anything. She was like, I can't really think of anything, or I feel like I've told you that before. I feel like we've kind of talked about that already. And it's like, Eris was trying. Like, I'll give it to Eris. He was trying. One of the questions he answered, he got deep. He got vulnerable and he was open and very honest, and she gave him nothing. And so in that moment, obviously he is frustrated, but we didn't see, at least, him talk to Jasmine about that. We didn't see him say, well, Jasmine, you said you wanted this. Now, in his talking head to us, he said that. He didn't say that to her, though. And I don't know if I'm hoping he says this to her, but it's like, we're not seeing it, so we really don't know. What I wanted to see was him saying, Jasmine, you said that you wanted this, right? You said you wanted more intimate conversation, so I'm trying to have that kind of conversation with you. These questions were meant for us to get to know each other on a deeper level. So I'm making the effort. Do you not want to do this? Have you decided you don't want that intimacy anymore? Let me know exactly what you're thinking right now, because I'm trying, but it's frustrating because now that I'm trying and you're not trying anymore, I don't know where we stand from here. Do you not want to do this at all? Do you want to table this till tomorrow? He should have let it all out like that. And from what I saw, he did not. And so it's like, I need him to do more. But what I did like was what he did next. In the next scene that we see him, he called her mother to get advice from her. I thought that was such a good move. I thought that was very considerate and intentional. And it was one of the first times that I've seen Eris make a real concerted effort to make things right. Because before, he's gone to his raggedy cousin, gone to his friends. And not saying his friends give him bad advice. The raggedy cousin, for the most part, does. Not saying the friends give bad advice, but it's like, if you want to get to know your wife, talk to your wife or talk to someone that knows your wife. So I love the fact that he called Jasmine's mama to get some advice. That made me very happy. And again, it shows the intention that, oh, you're really trying to save this marriage. Good for you. And the mom was really cool. I really liked her mother. And the mother basically said that, I put that. It was a good move and a step in the right direction. I also said that Jasmine looks exactly like her mother, which I think is so interesting. But the mother said that Jasmine focuses on everyone else, and sometimes it's hard to put her own needs first, and basically told Eris that you got to pull it out of Jasmine and get her to talk. And she also said that Eris and Jasmine are both overthinkers and they're both too much in their head. They need to get out of their head. And it's a hindrance for them that they're just kind of overthinking the situation instead of just being themselves, saying what they mean, meaning what they say. And yeah, she told them they need to get out of their comfort zone and be intentional about fighting for the marriage and being willing to sacrifice. So getting out of the comfort zone, what I think Eric should do, because he said before that Jasmine talks more, or we have more talks, I guess, when we are out on a date. He needs to plan another kind of date or outing, not the rage room again, but some place where they can have actual conversation. I know in some episodes, I don't remember the couple, but seasons past, they had a couple that did yoga or some kind of yoga. But at the end of the yoga session, both of them were, I think one at a time, were blindfolded. The person who was blindfolded was asked questions. And sometimes it's easier, and they've learned this in the shows, they've done this a couple times, sometimes it's easier for a person to be vulnerable with their spouse or with their partner or whoever if they're not looking them in the eye. If they can't see facial expressions, if they can't see the person maybe looking bored or disinterested or, seeing shame or whatever. So sometimes if you're blindfolded, it's a little easier for you to talk about what's on your mind. And so I think Eric should think of doing something along those lines, something that will kind of really get Jasmine out of whatever. Because he chose the rage room because he thought it would help her, really express herself. And the rage room is cool, but in that kind of activity, you can't really talk. So he needs to, really pay attention to things that she said and arrange a date night around something that she actually likes to do. Something maybe she hasn't done in a while, something she's always wanted to try. Have that kind of date night so that automatically puts her in a very comfortable position. And then from there, you can blindfold her or have questions there or whatever. Bring the same bowl of questions that she refused to go through and kind of start over fresh in a neutral environment. Because I'm sure the apartment doesn't have all of the best feelings for her because she's sharing this apartment with a man who's constantly telling her he's not attracted to her. So maybe you guys do need to go somewhere. So we'll see if that happens next week. We'll see if there is any improvement next week. But that's all that happened, guys, in Married at First Sight. So let me know what you guys think below. Make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel, comment below. I love talking to you guys about the show because you guys give such great insight on the couples. I don't typically watch the after party, so thank you guys so much that watch the after party and give me some tips. Not tips, but give me information that you've learned from there. And yeah, I will see you guys next week. Peace.